Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mother's Monday. Just waiting for our Nikki Kent to join me here. Oh, thank you so much. Hey, everybody. Hi, our very own Nikki Kent. Just waiting for her to join here. Thank you, everybody, for waving hi. Hey, everybody.
Yay,
Oh,
I'm
Nick's got her
here.
pump
This
out.
worked.
Amazingly, we are both live. Yeah, I can hear you, Nick. A little frozen here. We're in Vermont, so sometimes our internet connections can be slow. But welcome here. This is what we love to call our Pumpcast. And normally, Nikki here and I are joining you from Mamava's headquarters in Burlington, Vermont. But given quarantine, we are both joining you from our homes in Vermont. But we still have our pumps here, still bringing the vibe of Mamava, and just hoping that Nikki's internet maybe kicks in a little stronger right now. All right. Let's see here. Okay, says it's having trouble loading for her and try again later. So I'm gonna have her. Oh, there she goes.
I'm here.
Hey,
I'm
Nick.
here. I had to move locations. Oh, oh, the joy of being from home and not in our
Relocated.
beautiful pod.
So now you're in your other office, the kitchen, the other mom office.
Yes, the other
Yeah,
mom office. Thanks everybody
exactly.
so much for joining us today. We're so happy to be here for our Pumpcast, which how long has it been, Annie, since we've resurrected this?
Since
At
our
least a
first
couple years.
podcast.
Yeah, I think
Oh
2016.
yeah. So yeah, my daughter is about to turn 3 Wednesday,
Oh my
and I
goodness.
was pregnant with her when we were doing our first one. So 3.5 years at least,
So
for
fun.
sure.
So fun. So do you want to jump in? And guys, I'm Nikki Kent. I'm our Chief Revenue Officer at Mamava, a mama of two. I have a 5.5-year-old Asher and a almost 3-year-old, just like Annie, Addison. And then I am totally insane and deciding to bring a third into this world, and I'm due in July. So I'll kick it over to Annie to share a little bit more about who we are at Mamava and her background.
And guys, obviously, Nikki and I have been quarantined apart from each other for 9 weeks now. So seeing that baby bump, I haven't seen this growth happen over the last 9 weeks. It's so exciting. But Nikki and I started the Pumpcast with Mamava 3.5 years ago when we were both pregnant, me with my first child, Nikki with her second. And just as a space for us to share what in the world happens when you're breastfeeding, when you're pregnant, as you're growing more kids, going back to work, whatever it may be. And Mamava is the category creator of freestanding lactation pods and our free Mamava mobile app that lets you find not only those pods, but also thousands of other approved lactation accommodations across the country, be it when you're out at the zoo, at the sports game, the hospital, or at work. And we're so happy to have you here today. And I'll let Nikki tell you more about what Mother's Monday is.
Yeah, we're so excited to be participating with these amazing groups of moms, career moms, mompreneurs across the country. What Mother's Monday is, it's a group of mothers encouraging others to stand up and celebrate the work of all mothers. And we always say at Mamava, led by our fearless CEO and founder, that all moms are working moms. And we so believe that at the core, especially right now in this wild time of the pandemic. But it's definitely for Mother's Monday more about redefining motherhood and work and what that looks like. And with a goal to just collectively create communities where families get the support that they need to succeed and thrive in the workplace. Who's behind it are some of our really great friends and colleagues on this journey to change the culture of what motherhood and work look like. My great, this amazing woman, Gayatri Agnew, she's the Senior Director of Corporate Philanthropy at Walmart, and she's the head of Walmart Working Moms. We're partnered at Mamava with Walmart, and we love this brand and retailer who has in so many ways stood up to support their working families and the working families communities across the country. And what's really exciting for us is that we get to be ambassadors of this movement and change agents and active members to try and start and ignite the conversation around how it needs to look for working moms today. It's very different. It's going to be even more different post this pandemic. So we're excited to talk with you guys about that today. First, I want to ask Annie, because I haven't seen her, how was your your Mother's Day in your first pandemic?
My first it definitely was different. And here in Vermont, which is where Mamava is headquartered, it snowed Saturday and then sort of continued to do that Sunday morning. So I have to say that really got me down. The way that we've been distinguishing weekends from weeks in this crazy time is big outdoor activities, taking advantage of the open space we have up here in Vermont. And it was just not possible this weekend. And then that feeling of trapped. My first Mother's Day was the day after Avery was born. So I was 24 hours into being a mom. And so that obviously sets a bar really high if that's your first Mother's Day. So this one felt not as cool as that one. But by the end of it, we had had an amazing day as a family together, and the sun came out and we'd got that big walk-in, and so it still felt special. What was yours?
Yeah, so it's fun. As you know, as our kids get bigger, this year was so special for me. My 5.5-year-old, who's really thoughtful in general, he just got it so much that he wanted to make the entire day about surprising mom in new ways. And so I had to stay in bed for breakfast. It was non-negotiable. So of course I'm like, well, what does this look like for you guys, bringing up pancakes and syrup that you're going to get all over our bed? So we put a tarp down, and they sat in her window seat, and it was just really special. They were so kind, and makes you feel good as a mom when your kids pay it forward in certain ways, and you're like, oh, I'm not doing terrible at this juggling of all things. It was really special. So that's something I know yours are, Avery's going to be 3, but something for you to really look forward to is when she can it's so intentional for how she makes your day special.
Yeah. Today, the 3-year-old phrase throughout all of yesterday and even into this morning was like, why is it Mother's Day? Why is Mother's Day? What is Mother's Day? Why is it? And I'm like, you know what? Never mind. Mother's Day means there are no questions allowed.
Mine this morning was like, Happy Mother's Day. And I'm like, you know what? That's right. It's Mother's Monday.
Every day. Exactly.
So I want to talk a little bit, Annie, first about your choice to become a career mom, and want to acknowledge off the bat, guys, that we know that it's not always a choice. And for sure, Annie and I come from a place of privilege where potentially there could have been a choice. For me, it definitely wasn't a choice. It was something I knew I would always do. But I want to talk a little bit, Annie, about kind of where you came from in deciding to be a career mom.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was pregnant with Avery, I mean, timeline-wise, I started almost 4 years ago with Mamava in June and told Nikki I was pregnant in September. I was, very newly pregnant. But so I gave birth before I even hit a year with Mamava. So I was at Mamava in that workplace, very supportive. So it never crossed my mind to not choose to return to work after the baby. I loved what I did, and I'm so devoted to the mission of Mamava. And then I felt so supported to be a new mom and return to work that I never had that, Hamlet moment in my mind of return or not return.
Yeah. Well,
what,
that's
I mean, you
a
had
place of privilege
yeah,
for
a couple
sure.
different kids. Yeah,
And not everybody works for a family-focused
exactly.
breastfeeding, changing the culture of breastfeeding company. I didn't when I had my first kid. I was in a really male-dominated tech industry where we did actually worked for retailers to do online grocery e-commerce, which is obviously very relevant today in the time of the pandemic. I was flying all around the world and country, meeting with my clients, and it was much less of a, there was no supportive culture, so no paid parental leave. So I had to take the entire time off unpaid. And also, I had a workplace male dominated culture where it was just an expectation that being in a senior leadership role that I would return to the workplace. Like there was no question. I managed all of our clients. And so go have the baby and make sure you're back as soon as possible. Thanks so much. And, I really worked hard, and I felt, as being in a leadership role and also having a rather strong voice, I felt as if I had to do something to try and make a little bit of change for this next generation of mothers that was going to come after me. And so I remember giving my CEO and our COO a copy of Lean In. It was like the relevant book of the times. Like there was no,
Subtle
subtle
messaging.
No, I went right in and said, you are to read this and we will have a book club after. And we went out to lunch and I said, what would this be like if I didn't return to work? Like, what would it look like for this company? And they were like, well, of course we need that to happen. And I'm like, that's flattering, but I'm actually talking about the other, 50% female population that you have, that can be new millennial moms that might not have the privilege to be able to choose to be able to take off a full 12 weeks unpaid. So starting that conversation was really important to me. Did I make major change while I was there? Unfortunately not. And it's a big reason why I made the decision to come work for a family first and women run company like Mamava.
Yeah, I love that. If anyone wonders what it's like to work for Nikki Kent, that right there, that little story. Here's a book. There will be a book report.
Stop telling everyone how I am as a boss.
Yeah, but that's the idea. It's got to come down to a supportive workspace that you feel that you can do both, do the career and do the mom.
Yes, I have a quick question for you before we jump into that. How do you feel about this is not a trick question, but how do you now feel about your choice to be a career mom in the middle of a pandemic?
Oh my goodness. I'd just be a mom in the middle of the pandemic. Just doing anything mom oriented. The hardest part is, with a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old,
yeah, you're still breastfeeding. So wait,
still breastfeeding.
Let's interrupt and say that we're on Zoom calls and Annie's fixing the computer to say, can you not see my pump? I just put it on. That's happening right now.
Yeah, that's happening right now. So still pumping even though I'm home. And I think for the 7-month-old, she's like, wow, you're around more. This is fine. The 3-year-old is like, you're here, but you're not here. And I don't get, and that's been really hard to try and explain to her why mom shutting the door and going into her office means like my own space. The way, of course, it's manifested is she'll now shut the door to her bedroom and be like, I have a work call. And like close her door and go in and set up her animals and I love that. It's sort of fun to model what it is to have the career and have responsibilities and other people to pay attention to. But that was the hardest transition was normally when we're all home together, it's a family day. Yeah. And so was struggling with why are you all here and not wanting to be around me. Right. Which is hard for a 3-year-old to process. So
yeah.
What about you?
The whole thing feels hard. I say to my husband, both of us are in these roles where getting through the work week is a absolute slog. And we just cherish getting to the weekends. But, I'll tell you, there's been some silver linings of it. The fact that we all are home early and can actually sit down and have a dinner together feels really awesome. That I am not packing lunches is like a massive life win. it's all hard. And I think we're acknowledging, you know, for these, I will say what, you know, when I look at it on the spectrum of what it looks like for an essential worker going back to work right now, which I have plenty of friends who are nurses and labor and delivery and postpartum, who are frontline workers in emergency rooms across the country, family members who are in retail or you know, in government jobs that are requiring people to be on the front lines right now, you know, it feels a lot less daunting when you take a look at it from that perspective, right? So it's just been, you know, you know, Mamava has really been dedicated to celebrating these essential workers. And I'll tell you what, when we get a photo in of a nurse with her mask on, pumping in our pod with her full pump on, it's something special.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that you know, you get the way I've found balancing the career mom life a lot of the time is very routine based. So
Yeah.
you know, when you get the kids up, then you get them breakfast, then it's load in the car, you know, it's your pack your lunches in. And so one of the biggest problems with quarantine was that all of that, the whole idea of reestablishing routines was hard. But to your point, it allowed for so much more of a relaxed breakfast in the morning because there wasn't the 15-minute of like get
Running
them in
out
the
the
car, then doing the
door.
drop
Yeah.
off, and then, you know, and all of that. But
Yeah.
it definitely was an adjustment period for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, let's talk about it's amazing that your experience into motherhood in the workplace was basically what every culture in the workplace should look like. So let's talk about what that looked like so that we can help share with others how they can be advocates and what they need to ask for in the workplace that looks a little bit like we do it at Mamava. So share with me what a supportive workplace looked like for you when you had your first.
Okay. So again, I mentioned this timeline earlier, but my daughter turns 3 on Wednesday, the day after tomorrow. And I started working with Mamava in June of 2016. And then it was actually at a ribbon cutting for one of our new pods. I went up to Nikkie. I was 6 weeks pregnant, I think. And I was throwing up in the mall bathroom where we were doing the ribbon cutting. And I was like, I have to go home. I am horribly sick. I didn't even want to tell you this early on, but I'm pregnant. And Nikkie immediately gave me a hug, but did it subtly because our whole team was also over there and I didn't want to tell everybody just yet. But then she like listed off all the groceries I should go buy that help alleviate nausea. And she was like, it's fine, go home. I'll cover you. You got this. Like, and that's,
should I mention what I was thinking during that moment? Because
Probably.
Just so everybody else knows, I almost threw up in my own mouth because I was also pregnant. I had literally taken the pregnancy test yesterday. There are 5 of us that work at Mamava at that time. And unfortunately, Annie and I made up 50% of the staff. So it was, you know, heart in your throat kind of moment. But of course, I was overwhelmingly supportive.
Exactly. And so that was, I mean, there's such stigma around, you know, family maternity leave, announcing you're pregnant. I've had so many friends tell me stories where they go in and say, you know, I'm pregnant. I wanted to let you know. And the first question out of the boss or manager's mouth is like, are you planning to return? You know, or something like that, instead of congratulations. That's so exciting. What can we do for you? And that's all that Mamava has ever done. It's like, I'm pregnant. What can we do for you? How can we as a company make sure everything that you cover is taken care of so you can go on leave and feel fully confident that the company's in a good place and you don't spend 1 minute of your maternity leave thinking like, is that ball dropped? Is that getting taken care of? You know, any anxiety around any of that. And then it was just an immediate celebration. So I, you know, tell everybody, we finally, Nikkie and I are like, we're pregnant, as if like
it's a joint announcement, which probably made Sasha want to also cry. But I think she was definitely in a space of being like, well, let's you know, as what I appreciate about her, and especially being in this you know, this mompreneur space, is she was like, well, we're gonna roll up our sleeves and we can do it without him. It's only 3 months. We got this.
Exactly. And then it was, okay, well, let's have you two talk as women going through this. Like, what's it like being pregnant at work? What's it like handling things like that? full celebration. They had the most beautiful baby shower for the two of us, celebrating babies everywhere. Nikki was so supportive during the whole prenatal journey, where I'd be like, this hurts, and she'd be like, that's normal. So I never was on WebMD or anything. I was just slacking Nikki to be like, I have this feeling.
Hang on. You were definitely on WebMD, and you were also Googling, because this girl is the biggest Google sleuth of any human I've ever met.
But then I'd be like, it's this, and you'd be like, Annie, it's just cramps. You're fine. Yeah. And then, I come back my first day after having Avery for my 12 weeks of leave, and Nikki has decorated the interior of the whole Mamava pod with photos of Avery as a baby and everything. So it's such a different experience, where you think from the minute they tell you what that facial reaction is when your employee comes to tell you she's pregnant, when your colleague tells you, that impacts the anxiety or the excitement she feels and how welcome she feels in that workplace. If it's, I'm so excited for you, do you know if it's a boy or girl? How are you feeling? Right. And it's that level of reaction versus, how does this impact me? That kind of digest of like, okay, let me think about this through my lens and what this does to me. That is a completely different experience.
And we perpetuate that culturally. The only way for us to perpetuate it is for us to actually act that way, and to share our stories, and to say, this is what happened for me when I returned to work, versus your friends that are going back to work maybe in New York City and have a different experience with their employer.
Exactly. And all that, it's messaging both like overtly, obviously, with a maternity leave policy, and messaging with a Mamava pod or a mother's room on site, because then obviously, okay, I'm very supported here. So I have my 3-year-old right now joining us for this.
Hi,
in her Anna dress.
Oh, beautiful.
Exactly. And then, as well as just the sort of cultural messaging of, how are you feeling? Is there anything we can do? I wanted to let you know that my wife, when she was pregnant, used this thing when she was feeling nauseous.
Yes.
Ben at our office was always so sweet and being like, there was this that was really great, or, this acupuncturist my wife swore by, if that would help you at all, which was just so kind. So that type of, but what did you feel you needed when you returned to work after Addie or Asher?
Yeah. So quite frankly, because we do this for a living, and we are supporting employers in the workplace and how they support their new families when they return to work, it's really clear to me what is most important. The first are policies and resources of support while they're on leave, so that they even understand that this is what the policies are, here's how you'll be supported. And then me going on leave and being out and maybe needing to research, what does this look like when I get back into the office? Is there a place for me to actually pump milk for my baby? One, we say this to employers all the time, you need that visual representation of a physical space that says, oh, they see me. If I want to choose to breastfeed my baby when I come back, that is available. So first and foremost, policies, resources, space. I think it's really critical for organizations to actually create the space for parents to ask what they need. What's been so fascinating for me and working with all these big companies across the globe on this, Walmart included, having Walmart working moms, Amazon has Mamazonians. There are all of these lactivists in the workplace that actually have created this space that's safe for moms to come and ask for what they need. And the final thing I would say as like what's really critical when women return to work is we've been framed up in this paternalistic culture, right? It's 9 to 5. You clock in, you clock out. And we know as mothers that that is not conducive to the way in which we need to raise a family and still be a career mom. And so I have loved our CEO's position on this and how to develop a maternalistic culture, and that she wants Mamava to set the example for other businesses. And she does it in a couple of ways. First is workplace flexibility. So without question, it is stated, it's in our handbook, what workplace flexibility looks like. We do these amazing, thoughtful Thursdays where everybody is allowed to. So we were practicing at home work before the pandemic hit, and Thursdays, everyone worked from home. You have an option, as Annie and I actually have taken advantage of, to do a 80% work week and maybe take one day. And so, I mean, how meaningful was that for you that I said, hey, this is the gig that I have. I'm at home with my kids on Thursdays. Everybody else is out of the office that day. Would you like to, be at home with your kids dedicated for that day? It's just, it's a step towards maternalism and integrating that into the workplace in a way that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually that's a silver lining, again, of the pandemic, is that it's forced a bunch of companies to take a look at that work-life balance line and the idea of the flexible work life. You give birth to a child, you go from not being a mom to being a mom. You go from not being a parent. This applies to dads. This applies to all partners, to all parents. Your entire life is upended. 12 weeks later, you're just supposed to go back to work as normal as you were before you had this tiny human enter your life. And I think everyone being shoved back into their homes, expected to maintain work and then be present with their children too, gives everyone the perspective of, this is such a monumental change and so difficult, and takes a transition that takes, weeks on weeks. And that's the level of flexibility and understanding too that needs to happen when someone comes back in. My sister's company does a stage, which Mamava adopted as well, a stage transition in where you're in one day, the first week your maternity leave ends, and the other days you work from home. And then it's 2, and then it's 3. So it's not drink from the fire hose. Like being a mom, that baby comes out of you, it's drink from the fire hose. It's not like take care of it for 2 hours. It's 24 hours for the foreseeable future.
Well, let's be clear too on that policy. That's because you had the safe space to bring that forward. That wasn't part of our original policy. And you said, hey, I think this is a great idea for us to adopt. This is something that my sister's company does down in New York. And you had the safe space to advocate for yourself and say, this would ease my transition back in after my second baby.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about what breastfeeding moms need when they return to work, obviously space. They need a dedicated space. That's what Mamava is all about. If you're a breastfeeding mom, you need a space to pump. That space should be, if you want to truly address the needs of moms, be thoughtfully designed. And that's down from the materialization. So even something as simple as don't carpet a mother's room. It will absorb milk, and then it'll become a rotten, stinking, smelling space. And then the mom will have to ask you to, steam clean it, and you'll be frustrated by that. So just have wipeable, non-porous, don't have absorbent materials in a mother's room. 2, is there a mirror? Is there a coat hook? Could you have refrigeration in a sink? And those types of increased amenities along those lines. Can you place it in proximity to where she works so that it isn't this fixed structure that requires a 30-minute commute to and from, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back? The worst thing that could possibly happen to you is you get 15 minutes there and realize the tiny little rubber thing that goes in your pump is back at your desk. And so it's that type of thing where it's like, how convenient have you made it for them? So also
I just want to emphasize really quick on that point is that in a post-COVID world, guys, like those things about designing the space in which when we go back into the workplace and we're making food for our baby, which I am going to be doing in the next 6 months here, is really critical. Like we need to have food grade surface materialization, cleanliness of the space, and you need to know that it's been cleaned before you were in that space. So that's just a really critical component, and one way in which we feel like we've, to Annie's point, really thoughtfully and intentionally designed these spaces.
Yeah, and some of the businesses have, to your point, hired tons of women and kept them and retained them, and they've got these big mother's rooms that have a bunch of spaces, divided by pipe and drape or that type of thing, so they could fit as many moms in at once as we like to say, as they had baby booms. But now as you're thinking about 6 feet spacing and social distancing, and you're seeing these,
what does that look like?
Maps come out where people are supposed to walk in a clockwise pattern. If you have a mother's room that's chock-a-block for moms, maybe the single dedicated space is what we need to move to, so that there is a devoted, dedicated, single occupancy space.
Yes, absolutely.
And obviously,
what else does she need?
What else does she need? So one of the big changes that actually happened from Avery to Perrin, my 7-month-old, is we got a pump in the pod. So we started our partnership with Medela, which is amazing for new moms, healthy returns. Yep, our branded pods. And they, a lot of employers do this actually. They use and I will show you because I stole it from Mamava when we packed up for the quarantine. It's now mine, but it's the hospital grade that's meant to be the multi-user pump. And we got that in the pod. And what that allowed me to do was bring nothing on a daily basis except my little cooler pack with my bottles in it. So I could come, I had pump parts at work, I had a pump at work, and I just brought a little lunchbox of Perrin's milk that I would fill up and take home each day. With Avery, I had a pump motor. I left a set of parts at work, but only after I forgot my pump parts in my first 2 weeks back to work, probably 4 times. And I would get to work and be like, oh my God, they're on the drying rack at home. And
I was like, we can share our extra
and my boss is sharing her pump parts with me. I mean, it's like completely different office culture. But that's like that kind of thing where if you check something off her mom, just provide the pump, not even the parts or things like that, let alone things that in the COVID era, to your point, Nikki, that you may want to start thinking about that we partnered with Medela on previously are sanitation wipes and things to wipe down the pump parts and including sanitation spray and things like that so that you're able to tell your moms this space is clean and dedicated for you and a mom can take care of her pump parts and her own hygiene before entering or exiting the space.
You're going to want to do that versus going to a community sink. There is no question that is a smarter play than actually using something that everybody's using in a kitchen space. One thing that I just wanted to mention that Annie brought up, so we did this amazing co-branded program that we're working with really progressive employers across the country on who want to go above and beyond the supplemental benefits that might be offered through their health plan and be able to provide those pumps that are multi-user, no milk transferred. You bring your own parts. It's literally just airflow. So the space itself, the pump itself is very sanitary. Also 24/7 lactation support. Like we know when new moms first have their babies that the number one way in which they're going to achieve their breastfeeding goals is if they have support from a lactation consultant. So offering 24/7 LC, some amazing resources. So what we do is, we share some of our favorites that come from like Jessica Shortall, Work, Pump, Repeat, such a good book. I did not have with my first that it would have been so handy as I was becoming
Which I think mom. You gave to me as soon as I told you I was pregnant. Yeah.
Read this.
So I've had that and I've passed that along.
Yeah. And the 5th trimester. But Medela has all these amazing resources because obviously, their bread and butter is that they've done all of this R&D on making milk and how to store it and how much you should leave for at daycare and all of the above. So really recommend, if you're leaning into your employer and advocating for what women need in the workplace, that you're thinking of things that go beyond the space, and we can obviously help you with that. So Annie, tell me a bit, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I think that's the power of women supporting each other at work. It was actually, so to your point, it's all sharing ideas too. It doesn't even need to be within one workspace. So my sister tells me about her company's maternity leave policy and that work back. And then I bring it to Mamava. And then tell her about, I think having this hospital grade pump could be a game changer for you. And I just think that, you should go. And so she went to her company and said, this might be an idea. You put the pump in there. Moms are able to use it and they just bring their parts. I think that could be a really great idea there. And then they got a hospital grade pump for their mother's room. And so it's also that sharing thing where it's like in one workspace, but also moms talking to each other, because the more we push our individual employers to do better and to improve their benefits, it just is that, our CEO always says a rising tide lifts all boats. So if we're all going to, and then we're like, well, this company does it. No better motivation than potential recruitment retention lines pushed around there to say that place is friendlier than you are. One of our favorites at Mamava is people will be like, we don't have a lot of new moms. And you're like, is that because everyone who works
Yeah.
at your office is celibate, or is it because they're leaving to go have babies and work somewhere
It's
else?
not because they're celibate. So
yeah, exactly.
that is so funny. So I do want to share this quote from Christina, who just joined us, and it's going to actually make me tear up a little bit. But she said, I work in the operating room, and trying to plan my pump breaks has been so challenging. My little guy is 14 months old, and because of your pod and my awesome pump book and bag has helped my journey be successful. Thank you so much. So Christina,
Christina, thank you.
We can't thank you enough for being on the front lines and working so hard to feed your baby. I'm so happy there is a pod at your hospital. That makes my heart happy. And we are here to support you in anything that you need. I'll tell you what, it's these
and 14
lactatives,
months. Congratulations, Christina.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Superstar.
That is awesome.
I was like, get me out of this at 11 months. I was like, I'm done pumping in the workplace. I will breastfeed until they're however they want, but I am over this thing. This thing is treacherous.
No robot babies. Yeah.
No robot babies. But I want to, Christina brings up a great point in highlighting some of these lactivist moms within organizations, like they are making the difference. And so what we say on this, Mother's Monday and this Career Moms Day is like, be like Tennille Webb at Walmart, who worked at headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas, went around to all the retail stores in the south part of the country that she serviced from her real estate position, and said, okay, if I can't find a place to pump in these stores, what in the world are these retail workers doing? And so Walmart would provide a space if anyone needed it, but it wasn't a dedicated space. And she said, couldn't we extend this to our communities? And what she's done in order to bring it forward and advocate and lactivate for these moms, both in the communities that Walmart serves and in the retail stores, is something to be emulated for all businesses. Like, share your voice, like feel comfortable supporting other moms. If you're not a mom, or you're not even on the journey, or you were on the journey 20 years ago and you had to walk up the hill and you had a hard experience, like try and make change for this next generation of moms. I am damn well sure that my sister will not be pumping in a airport bathroom like I was.
Watch out. Watch out, Nikkie's sister's boss. You got a book coming in the mail. She's going to have you book report. I mean, that's the idea. We another amazing group of lactivist women are the team at Brigham and Women's Hospital that worked with us. I mean, that's talking out of both sides of your mouth. You know, I would not have been successful on my breastfeeding journey if it weren't for the postpartum nurses, where every time Avery latched, I pushed that nurse button and I was like, get in here, please look at this for me and tell me what's going on. Yeah. And so they're like, yes, breastfeeding, we're promoting this. They're baby friendly hospitals. And then their nurses don't have spaces to produce their own human milk to feed their babies. And you're just like, how do both of those things coexist? How are you telling your patients it's the best thing to do and then telling your nurses figure it out on your own?
And they stood up and they said,
yes,
exactly. They went and they said, look, as a postpartum nurse, the system failed me and I need the spaces. And oh, by the way, my friend works at Mamava. You know, it was helpful. But what's so important right now is that we do lean in and we do give these women the space to say, like, this is not acceptable. How many teachers are in nurses' bathrooms and infirmaries? How many women in the tech space are pumping in a server's closet or a janitor's closet? Yeah. You know, how many horror stories have we seen of where women are actually pumping? And they're doing the best thing they can by their families, by going back into the workplace, by making food for their baby that they just built in their body and then delivered and then have kept alive. So the least we can do is provide them some space and some resources to be able to meet their goals.
And I think, I mean, that's in terms of action steps. Are you a new mom? Are you expecting mom, hoping to be mom? Yeah. Or do you have kids and you're past the age of childbearing, but you think to yourself, what's my workplace like? Evaluate how family friendly is your workplace. And if you are in a leadership position, and you've had your kids, still stand up and use your voice to advocate for them. Look at what's the volume of paternity leave. You know, having the husband home, having your partner home. Is it adoptive parents? Is it
Game changer.
surrogacy? Is it, you know, how much longer should be for twins or a C-section? You know, are those types of things written out in your leave policy so that moms are supported whatever their journey may look like? And then also it's just support and celebrate when someone is balancing that career mom life. The story I always tell people where they're like, did you think about not coming back, or what's it like working at Mamava? Avery got hand, foot, and mouth from daycare, of course. And we were in the middle of this sort of big meeting, and I get the call from daycare, and I come back in and I say, Avery has hand, foot, and mouth, guys. I have to go pick her up. And the first thing out of everybody's mouth wasn't like, when are we going to pick this up? Or where's this happening here? Or like, can anyone cover for what Annie's going to drop? Now it was like, you're going to want to go get these popsicles. You should rotate between Advil and Tylenol. That'll help her sleep through the night. Like, figure out where it's most pronounced. Then she might be too hot, so you want really loose fitting clothing. Give me a call if you have any questions. You know, and that's like where in that moment, it's not going to do any good for the mom to think about that same reaction when she tells you you're pregnant. Don't process, what does this do for me? Say, what can I do for you? And then that mom will go above and beyond to deliver whatever she needs to do for work and for her kids. So
yeah,
you know,
you don't have to then, you know, put a copy of Lean In on the CEO's desk. You don't have to go that far. But I will tell you that
maybe you do. If you have that
you
relationship, go for it. So what do you think, Nick? You know, what does breastfeeding look like? What are you considering as a pregnant mom?
Yeah.
What are we, 8 weeks out?
Yeah,
as if I'm pregnant with you.
No, we're 10 weeks out.
10
Let's
weeks
see
out.
if I
Okay.
make it to 40 weeks. But yeah.
Okay.
We're 10
So
weeks
what is
out.
like, what are you thinking, you know, breastfeeding in a post-COVID world? What,
you know, my heart is heavy for these first-time moms. Like, I am okay. I have the support and resources. I already did a home birth for my first baby, and I did a hospital birth for my second, and I'm even going to be going back to the hospital for my third. So I just feel for these moms that maybe want more care right now. I mean, I decided on a home birth because I wanted a home birth midwife that spent an hour with me in every single prenatal appointment. Like, I needed that for my transition into motherhood. And I'm still going to have a CLC. Hopefully we'll be at the point in July where a CLC can come to my house and just check my baby's latch. I'll tell you what, even though I've done this so many times and I felt really comfortable and I've had successful breastfeeding journeys, I know the value of that person being able to make that home appointment or get that care that I need in the hospital and ask for that LC to double check the latch for the baby. What I worry a little bit about in a post-COVID world is that it's going to be this dance back into society, and our employers thinking about these what I would say are essential working moms that need to have this dedicated space, and why. And my heart already feels heavy for those organizations that don't understand the prioritization of it. And, that's where Mamava comes in, and we're just going to keep pushing keep pushing culture and for progress, because I'm telling you what, that's what moms need.
And one thing I find exciting, which, hopefully to end on a high note, is in this COVID era, everyone's realizing what remote work really needs to look like and can look like and can be productive. And everyone knows that, maybe workspaces aren't the best spots to return to if you have at-risk populations at home. So it's that type of thing. Maybe it takes this type of experience to let employers think, she can take 12 weeks leave. And then let's give her 3 more months to just work from home. What's wrong with that? She's got the baby there. She can breastfeed there. We don't, she can be home with the baby. She doesn't need to put the baby in daycare necessarily and expose them.
Are you suggesting that this could be the push the paternalistic workplace needs to lead towards a maternalistic culture? Because that's what we're going to push for.
Right? That's what we're going for, and
that's
then
right.
We're pushing to put Mamavas in the offices for those that have to return, in the hospitals, in the stadiums, and everything that when normal life returns. But if you can strike that balance of, you can be my employee and you can be a mom, and those things can happen simultaneously, and you tell me what you need to be successful. Does it need to be returning to work? You know, for me, after Avery, I was like ready to put my career brain back on and go full into that. And then by the time having two kids and thinking about getting dinner on the table, sometimes being able to have that flexibility of staying from home, leaving earlier, getting back on after. Then, and I love this comment from Lady Britches, supported in the workplace, I feel so much loyalty to my employer, you know, so that type of thing. If you go and you say to a new mom, what does your ideal look like? And let me see if I can get there. It doesn't need to be, you tell me exactly and I will do, you know, you can work 3 hours a week and never come into the office. Let's see if we can find a medium that works for everybody. And that's what I think this forcing everyone to work remote, get creative, see how teams work together, can actually have the impact of moving more to that maternalistic. How does everyone need to be nurtured to succeed?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Annie, thank you so much for taking the time with me. And everybody, thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone has a wonderful Mother's Monday and celebration of the career mom. Let's reimagine what the workplace can look like. Mamava is here to support you. And thanks for being here. Have a good one,
everybody.
Guys. Bye.